Dear members of the Rabin family, Yonatan, Noah, Michael, Rabbi Josh Davidson, Alisa Doktrov, President of UJA Federation of New York, Malcolm Online, Vice Chairman of the Conference of Presidents, and I know that Stephen Greenberg is also here, the Chair of the conference. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, November 4th, 1995 was one of the darkest moments in the history of Zionism in the State of Israel. Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was murdered by a Jew following a peace rally in Tel Aviv. He was laid to rest with full military honors in Mount Herzl in Jerusalem. Leaders from 80 nations, including the President of the United States, gathered in Jerusalem to pay homage to the fallen leader. This is what King Hussein of Jordan, a foe turned ally, said about Rabin at the funeral. I never thought that the moment would come like this, when I would grieve the loss of a brother, a colleague, and a friend, a man, a soldier who met us on the opposite side of a divide, whom we respected as he respected us, a man I came to know because I realized, as he did, that we had to cross over the divide, establish the dialogue, and strive to leave also for us a legacy that is worthy of him. King Hussein of Jordan, 1995. I never had the privilege of working closely with Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, but I did have a chance as a young diplomat and in my role as a policy assistant to Israel's chief negotiator to observe him in action. So I'm speaking here tonight as a person whose appreciation to the leadership, legacy, and personality of Yitzhak Rabin is overwhelming and abundant. 20 years is a long time, almost a generation. And because of the brutal way he was taken from us so abruptly, Rabin's memory is often shaped by emotions and sentiment. As it often happens with grief and memory, 20 years after his untimely departure, we remember Rabin more than ever. What made him so unique? His candor, honesty, authenticity, and straightforwardness. Yitzhak Rabin said what he meant and meant what he said. His strong sense of responsibility. Rabin was famous for his operational and ministerial accountability. His complete and absolute devotion to a lifetime of public service. Rabin served his nation during every single moment of his adult life. At the age of 25, he was already the commander of the famous Harel Brigade. At the age of 42, he was appointed to lead the Israel Defense Forces and later orchestrated the decisive victory during the Six-Day War. His legendary attention to detail, Rabin's vast knowledge in military, policy making, and politics earned him the admiration of many world leaders. And perhaps above all, his relentless desire to constantly and actively shape reality. Rabin knew that to be a leader, one cannot rest on yesterday's triumphs. He knew the nature of our region and our neighbors well. He fought them throughout his entire life. Despite of our neighbors' ill intentions and hostility, Rabin sought to build a better future for us all. As a soldier, he was a reluctant hero and victor. As a diplomat, he shied away from vanity and ceremony. As a statesman, he valued deeds and actions over statements and speech-making. All those unique characteristics turned him into an unforgettable hero of the Zionist enterprise, a towering figure who inspired his nation and the entire world. Prime Minister of France, Jacques Chirac, aptly put it. Above all, he said, Yitzhak Rabin was a hero of a great Israeli adventure, the great Israeli adventure. From the War of Independence to the Six-Day War, he earned the respect of all, friends and enemies alike. He epitomized a generation that made the desert bloom, created a vibrant democracy, and accomplishing the dream of a millennium, the creation of a homeland to the Jewish people that would give refuge to Jewish victims of persecution throughout the world. That was Yitzhak Rabin. Ech naflu giborim, yehi zichro baruch. May his memory be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador, for your remarks. I would now like to invite Mr. Malcolm Hoenlein, Executive Vice Chairman of the Conference of Presidents of Major Jewish Organizations. Mr. Hoenlein had the honor to know Prime Minister Rabin personally and will reflect on the time he spent with him.
It would take too much time to reflect on the incredible privileges I had, many occasions to talk to him, to work with him, from the time I came to New York to start the conference on Soviet Jewry in New York, when he wrote me after the first Solidarity Day, something very few people knew about, and congratulated us on mobilizing 50,000 people at the time. And throughout the years that I knew him, he was an enigma in ways, but he is somebody who could evaluate immediately who was sincere and who wasn't, who he could rely on and whom he couldn't. He was a man of peace who led Israel's military as a lifelong soldier. He was a fighter who negotiated with Israel's adversaries. He was a negotiator who did not compromise on the values he held sacred. He was a secularist who was committed to the biblical and historic roots of the Jewish people and state. He was shy by nature, yet bold when necessary, a hero who preferred staying in the background, a true Sabra, tough on the outside, but soft and caring on the inside. There are many things that I could describe. It's hard to do it at a time when we recall the sorrow that we felt 20 years ago, hardly diminished by the passage of time. All of us have moments to remember. It's one of those things like Kennedy's assassination, when you know where you were when you heard the news, how stunned we all were, how shaken, how it changed the history of Israel, just as he created the history of the Jewish state. The Prime Minister won the Nobel Peace Prize for his role in promoting peace in the Middle East. He lived and died for the service to the state of Israel. And as we mark this anniversary and recall his lifelong contribution to the Jewish state and Jewish people, we must resolve that his hopes and dreams will be fulfilled, that Israel will live in peace and security. We must assure that verbal violence and unacceptable rhetoric will never be tolerated. I thought about what I could say, and there was nothing more powerful and poignant, I thought, than his very own words. Especially at a time when we see Jerusalem under siege, when we see the vote at UNESCO to take away our holiest places, the Western Wall, Rachel's tomb, the Cave of the Patriarchs, renaming them as mosques, trying to deny our connection, telling us that Al-Aqsa belongs to others, not to us. In 1995, just shortly before his assassination, we hosted an event in the rotunda of the Capitol of the United States. It was the last time that such an event has ever been held there. And I had to get the permission of the Speaker of the House and the leaders of the Senate and the White House to hold the ceremony to mark the passage of the Jerusalem Bill. The bill that declared that it was American law that united Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and that America's embassy belongs there. And as we were working on the bill, when we first started with Senator Moynihan, I told the Prime Minister about it. And he said to me, if you get this passed, I will come to Washington for the signing. So I called him the day before the final vote, and I said, Mr. Prime Minister, we're going to test you to see if you're true to your word, because tomorrow the bill will pass. It didn't take but a few hours till I got a call asking me when the ceremony would be, and he came. And he said to me that this was one of the happiest days of his life. And the reason it was so is best described in his own words. Jerusalem is the heart of the Jewish people and a deep source of our pride. On this festive occasion, thousands of miles from home, here and now, we once again are raising Jerusalem above our highest joy, just like our fathers and our fathers' fathers did. Jerusalem has 1,000 faces, and each one of us has his own Jerusalem. My Jerusalem is Dr. Moshe Wallach of Germany, the doctor of the sick of Israel and Jerusalem, who built Shaare Tzedek Hospital and had his home in its courtyard so as to be close to his patients day and night. I was born in his hospital. I am a Jerusalemite. My Jerusalem is the focus of the Jewish people's yearnings, the city of its visions, the cradle of its prayers. It is the dream of the return to Zion. It is the name millions murmur even on their deathbeds. It is the place where our eyes are raised and our prayers uttered. My Jerusalem is the jerry can of water measured out to the besieged in 1948, the faces of its anxious citizens awaiting quietly in line for bread, the sky whose blackness was torn by flares. My Jerusalem is Bab el-Wad, the road to the city which cries out, remember our names forever. It is the ashen faces of dead comrades from the War of Independence and the searing cold of the rusting armored cars among the pines on the side of the road. My Jerusalem is the great mountain, the military cemetery on Mount Herzl, the city of silence whose earth holds the treasured thousands of those who went to bitter battle and did not return. My Jerusalem is the tears of the paratroopers at the Western Wall in 1967 and the flag which once more waved above the remnant of the temple. My Jerusalem is the changing colors of its walls, the smells of its markets, the faces of its members among every community and every faith, where all have freedom of thought and freedom of worship, in the city where holiness envelops every stone, every word, every glance. And my Jerusalem is the city of peace, which will bear great tidings to all faiths, to all nations, for the Torah shall come forth from Zion and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. Peace be within thy walls and prosperity within thy palaces. We differ in our opinions left and right. We disagree on the means and objectives. In Israel, we all agree on one issue, the wholeness of Jerusalem, the continuation of its existence as capital of the state of Israel. There are not two Jerusalems. There is one Jerusalem. For us, Jerusalem is not subject to compromise, and there is no peace without Jerusalem. Jerusalem, which was destroyed 8 times, where for years we had no access to the remnants of our temple, was ours, is ours, and will be ours forever. This is the time to welcome and say thank you for the resolution that uplifts the heart of every Israeli and every Jew to relocate the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem to Jerusalem, the beating heart of the Jewish people. We have always regarded Jerusalem as united, as Israel's capital and under its sovereignty. We always knew it, and we always acted on that basis. We welcome every new partner in this effort, and we welcome every new embassy in Jerusalem. We extend a particular welcome to our great friend, the United States of America. We are moved by the action taken by Congress. We are moved by the spirit it expresses. We are moved by the overwhelming majority. We are moved by the fact that there were no Republicans or Democrats when it came to this vote. I will carry this display of American people's friendship and support back to Israel, to my home, to my office in Jerusalem. My Jerusalem becomes yours as well. Here tears do not weaken eyes, wrote the Jerusalem poet Yehuda Amichai. The only polish and shine the hardness of faces like stone. Jerusalem is that stone. From distant Washington, shalom to you, Jerusalem.
חובל קברניט שלי, סופה כבר שכחה. אל הנמל שבעת קרבות, חותרת ספינתך. זרי פרחים, פעמונים, המון אדם צוהל, כאשר ספינת הקרב שלך קרבה אל הנמל. אבוי ליבי, 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 או כתם דם שוטט. בשרב החובל שלי צונח קר ומת. ליבי, 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 או כתם דם שוטט. אוהב חובל אבי שלי, הקשב לכל פעמון. לך כל הדגלים כולם, לך תרועת המון. רק לכבודך ביום חגך ינוע הקהל, ובכולם תקוות עולם לנס המיוחל. אבוי ליבי, 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 או כתם דם שוטט. בשרב החובל שלי צונח קר ומת. ליבי, 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 או כתם דם שוטט. אוהב חובל אבי שלי, זרועי תתמוך ראשך. סיוט הוא לראותך נופל פתאום על סיפונך. רב החובל אינו עונה, שפתיו חברו אילמות. הוא לא יחוש מגע ידי, הוא לא ייתן לי אות. אבוי ליבי, 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 או כתם דם שוטט. בשרב החובל שלי צונח קר ומת. ליבי, 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 או כתם דם שוטט. אבוי ליבי, 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 או כתם דם שוטט. בשרב החובל שלי צונח קר ומת. ליבי, 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 או כתם דם שוטט. הוגנת הספינה לבטח, המסע הושלם. נוצחו כל סכנות הדרך, כל אימי הים. כשבנמל קהל יצהל, אני אצעד אבל על הסיפון עליו נפל אבי רב החובל. אבוי ליבי, 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 או כתם דם שוטט. בשרב החובל שלי צונח קר ומת. ליבי, 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 או כתם דם שוטט.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I would now like to invite the president of the UJA Federation of New York, Elisa Doktorov.
I was just leaving Israel last Motzei Shabbat, Saturday evening, when the rally in memory of Yitzhak Rabin was taking place in Tel Aviv. Live coverage of the rally was on the radio in my cab. Speeches by Clinton, Obama, and family members. But then the radio switched to tape coverage of the night of the assassination in 1995. As the news unfolded, the radio announcer cut back and forth from a mellow music program to the drama at the scene. Shots were heard after the end of the peace rally, reporters said. Ambulances had arrived. There was confusion about who, if anyone, was hurt. Back to the music. And then again, shots fired. Now 3 shots. Ambulances arrived and departed. There was a frantic search for more information, interviews with people in the area. We arrived at the airport before the tape reached the awful conclusion. Would that we could have skipped the conclusion in reality. On that night 20 years ago, I was at a family celebration. My sister was getting married the next day, November 5th. We were shocked by the news and doubly shocked by the revelation that the assassin was a Jew. There was also the irony, of course, of the peace rally and the Song of Peace, Shir Shalom, one that I'd loved in Jewish summer camp, along with other classic Israeli songs that express the hopes, the dreams, and the achievements of the generations of builders of the State of Israel, like Yitzhak Rabin. We all remember where we were, as Malcolm said. And in that terrible moment, it was hard to express grief on our own. And so we did what we have always done as a community and as a people. We leaned on one another, coming together to mourn, to reflect, and to begin healing. As we come together still today, still needing comfort, and seeking meaning these many years later. A month after Rabin's death, nearly 17,000 mourners gathered in a massive memorial in Madison Square Garden to pay tribute to the soldier who was killed while pursuing peace. People from over a dozen states, government representatives from over 30 countries, nearly 40 congressmen and women, leaders and members of the 40-plus sponsoring organizations, and certainly many of you who are here tonight. The recurring theme of that event was Jewish solidarity and unity, as well as the hope that Prime Minister Rabin's quest for peace would someday be realized. Then President of UJA Federation, Louise Greilsheimer, noted that while an assassin's bullet can pierce our heart, it cannot deter us from peace. Today, the need to strengthen those bonds between us, those on the right, left, and center, religious, secular, those of no religion, is as powerful as it was then and continues to inform much of what we do as UJA Federation in New York's communal agenda. Many of us remember a time when Israel was the issue that most unified our community, the agenda around which all could rally. Now, sadly, it is perhaps the one that most divides us. We can't shy away from talking about Israel and supporting it. We also can't allow those at the extremes of the debate to define the public discourse. We don't have to agree, but we have to come together, remembering that no side has a monopoly on the truth, and that our community, on all sides of the debate, is motivated by a deep love for the State of Israel. Calls for peace and calls for solidarity have lived on, but I would venture that while we have talked the talk, we haven't walked the walk. And far too many times, we haven't even been very good about talking the talk. As we reflect on Rabin's untimely death, we must remember his courage and his willingness to take risks in pursuit of peace, in pursuit of a strong future for Israel and for the Jewish people, and walk in his footsteps.
Thank you, Elisa Doktorov. On November 4th, 1995, Prime Minister Rabin stood at the Kings of Israel Square at a rally to support peace and condemn violence. The square was later renamed Rabin Square. This is what he said to the Israeli people who were cheering for him. Allow me to say, I am also moved. I want to thank each and every one of you who stood up here against violence and for peace. This government, which I have the privilege to lead, together with my friend Shimon Peres, decided to give peace a chance. A peace that will solve most of the problems of the state of Israel. I have always believed that the majority of the people want peace and are prepared to take risks for peace. And you, here, by coming to this rally, along with the many people who did not make it here, prove that the people truly want peace and oppose violence. Violence is undermining the very foundations of Israel's democracy. It must be condemned, denounced, and isolated. This is not the way of the state of Israel.
אם הייתה תקופה שבה החלטתי שאני נשאר בצבא, זו הייתה התקופה שהייתי עם הראל במצור בירושלים. לא עוד ניכנס למלחמה בלתי מוכנים, כפי שנכנסנו למלחמת העצמאות.
המלחמה היא עניין קשה ואכזרי מעיקרו, מלווה בהרבה דם ודמעות. אך דווקא במלחמה הזו שעברה עלינו באו לידי ביטוי גילויים מופלאים ונדירים של אומץ לב וגבורה, בצידם של גילויים אנושיים, של אחווה ורעות ואפילו של שאר רוח.
פניתי לראש הממשלה ושר הביטחון, לוי אשכול זיכרונו לברכה, וביקשתי שעם סיום תפקידי, ב4 שנים כרמטכ"ל, אתמנה לשגריר ישראל בוושינגטון. אשכול, שפניתי אליו, אמר לי, יצחק, תחזיק אותי, אני עוד מעט נופל מהכיסא, אתה דיפלומט.
אני נותן את ברכתי הצנועה לחבר יצחק רבין.
הממשלה הזאת אמרה, אנחנו מוכנים למשא ומתן על השגת שלום. שלום שיחסל את המלחמה, יציב גבולות ביטחון, יפתור את הנושא הפלסטיני, שלום אמיתי. To the Palestinians, in the territory, with you we are in confrontation. Let's shift the confrontation to negotiation. אני רואה בתפקידי בעת הזאת הזדמנות היסטורית לממש תנועה בכיוון של מחשבות בלתי מוסכמות בעבר. בשבילי, כהונתי כראש ממשלה, זו גולת כותרת של כל חיי הפוליטיים והביטחוניים. The peace that was born today gives us the hope that the children born today will never know war between us, and their mothers will know no sorry. הייתי איש צבא 27 שנים. נלחמתי כל עוד לא היה סיכוי לשלום. אני מאמין שיש סיכוי לשלום, סיכוי גדול, וחייבים לנצל אותו. למען אלה שעומדים פה, למען אלה שאינם עומדים פה, והם רבים בעם. תמיד האמנתי שמרבית העם רוצה בשלום, תומך בשלום, ועל כך תודה רבה לכם.
I am now honored to invite to the stage Mrs. Noa Rothman, granddaughter of Prime Minister Rabin, to share her memories of her grandfather. We were all touched by the eulogy that Ms. Rothman gave as a teenager at the funeral of her grandfather.
Thank you, and thank you all for coming tonight. Before I begin, I would like to thank Consul General Ido Aharoni and his staff for their commitment to the legacy of my grandfather and for making this memorial possible. Toda rabah, and good evening to you all who have come here tonight. 20 years ago to the day, at the end of the rally promoting peace and opposing violence, during the height of a brutal campaign and an ideological debate that crossed the lines of democratic rules, and this created the Israeli democracy forever, the Prime Minister, my grandfather, Yitzhak Rabin, was assassinated by an Israeli Jew. Just 2 days later, when we departed from him in the presence of the world, I asked not to talk about the peace process, but rather about my grandfather. Tonight, with your permission, I would like to do so again, speak about my grandfather and the state he had committed his life to. The Jewish and democratic Israel, whose heart was pierced by same 3 bullets that murdered my grandfather, one which left an internal hole. The murder was not an act of passion. The murder exposed a deep rift in Israeli society, and possibly the entire Jewish world. One that still exists to this day. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about the same Israel that is known for its remarkable creativity and innovation. The same democratic nation state that cures cancer, brings water to arid lands, grains to deserts. My home, your home, the home of every Jew throughout the world. Our righteous values rooted in our tradition, our moral and ethical rights rooted in humanity, the true justness of our path. Come to think about it, the state of Israel is actually a kind of a Cinderella story. It is not only the home of those who rose from the ashes of the crematoria, the global global persecutions, the pathology of rejection. It is a home of optimism and sustainability. In a short period of time, we Jews in Israel managed to weave the impossible dream, the 2,000 years undocumented by a library of books, the new stage, which was the old stage, Judaism and democracy, vision and action. Therefore, the assassinations actions that night 20 years ago not only shot Yitzhak Rabin, it also shot the spirit of the country. Commander Rabin, who led the Ariel Brigade of the Palmach, which made Jerusalem the capital of Israel during War of Independence in 1948. Lieutenant General Rabin, who as Chief of Staff led the IDF to its greatest victory of 1967 Six-Day War. A war which returned to our people the Old City and the Western Wall, the Kotel. Ambassador Rabin, who set the foundation for the close and personal relationship between the American people and Israel. Defense Minister Rabin, Mr. Defense, who opposed surrendering to terrorism of any kind. No, the murderer didn't want simply to stop my grandfather. His intentions were meant to bring into question the role of Israel as a united Jewish and democratic entity. He rebelled against the fabric of our nation and distorted our values in the eyes of the world. He stained the object of longing during our 2,000 years exile. The creation of Israel and its establishment as a Jewish and democratic state has always been a source of pride to me personally, and I see the existence of the state, its institutions, the unique character, clear proof of determination and raw talent of the people of Israel. For me, it has all the makings of every existing democracy state, but the difference becomes clear in small details. Take Shabbat, for example. Here lies the slow merge of tradition and identity in its own uniqueness. It gives the essence in the most valid way of modern Jewish home. It actually combines the sacred and profane at the same time. We inherited from our Bible the Shabbat. Yet the spirit of Shabbat in Israel was also inherited from the pioneers who built the country, like my great aunt, my grandfather's sister, Rachel Rabin, a 91-year-old kibbutznikit who lives on the border of Lebanon, who is a proud Zionist, and inherited from those who tears failed the desert of Sudan, fleeing Arab lands in the dead of the night, and inherited from those who longed to be free from the behind of the iron gates of the Eastern Europe, and inherited from those who came to Israel from all over the world. And we redefined it to be our own, the successful in gathering of the exile, the building of the land, the building of the social structures of our system, fortifying our security and foregoing diplomacy alliance with our friends in the world. All these were productive tasks and successes of the young country in its early years. The economy in Israel, where the level of education, science, technology, achievements in medicine, culture, cinema, and literature far exceed from any other nation per capita in the past 70 years. The achievements of its citizens in so many fields is proud. The founders were not seeking to simply fill the young state with the children and their grandchildren and their children and their grandchildren. Their aim was to strengthen the country and cultivate a Jewish national identity, and stamped our position in the Middle East that the world would be able to challenge the very right of our existence. My grandfather, Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin, saw the ending of the conflict with the Arab neighbors as the final mission of his generation, and the work he began has still not been completed. The completion of this task did not slip from his hands. It was taken from all of us by a coward and those who enabled him. The Yitzhak Rabin Center in Tel Aviv was established through a mandate from the Knesset to serve so what you would call here in America a presidential library. For those of you who have not yet been there yet, I urge you to come. The heart of the center is the Israeli Museum, a multimedia exposition that vividly illustrates the history of the State of Israel on one hand and the personal story of Yitzhak Rabin on the second. My grandfather knew before the peace process that there would come a time in our existence that we would need to choose between being a home for Jewish nation or being a democracy. To him, these were unacceptable choices, as the dream of Israel to be a Jewish home governed by democratic process, because for him, the two were not contradiction. In the heart of Tel Aviv, to a crowd of over 100,000 people, just a few nights ago, President Clinton stated that Yitzhak Rabin knew the risk of what he was venturing into. He had seen Sadat and Gandhi before him, murdering by their own of trying to reach across the aisle. And yet, he was not afraid. He moved forward. The issue of the nature of the Jewish state was something my grandfather struggled with throughout his life. In October 1994, just 1 year before his assassination, he addressed a group of educators and authors. I'd like to share a part of the remarks which sum up his reason better than anything else. He said, "These days we are in the midst of a battle without cannons, in a war without fire. The battle over the nature of the Jewish state in the 21st century has begun. The coming years will be under the shadow of a question mark. Who are we? What are we striving towards? What is our new nature? What kind of a nation do we want to be? How shall we live with those surrounding us? Shall we be a light unto the nations, or shall we be a nation like all the nations? Will religion continue to preserve Judaism, the chosen people? And what is the place of secularism in it all? Will a new Jew arise, a new Zionist, a new Israeli? The answer, at least in part, lay in you." End of quote. 20 years after his assassination, we are no closer to peace than we were before. And that is the least of our problems. In a region being torn apart by extremists to our north, east, and south, the danger our little country faces is enormous. However, there are issues that challenge our country as a Jewish democratic state that exceed the outside threats. It is these threats which we work hard to address at the Yitzhak Rabin Center. Over the past decade, we have been working with students, soldiers, and educators to promote tolerance and understanding, to instill the values of a democracy, and to nurture leadership to our young generations, have the knowledge and the tools to face the challenges that lies ahead. The object is to bridge the gaps between Israeli citizens so what the environment that led up to my grandfather's assassination never is presented again. One of our most successful programs has been working with Sahel, the IDF. To date, over 100,000 soldiers, officers, commanders, and security personnel have undergone the center's training program, making it one of the largest providers to educational service to the Ministry of Defense. Like my grandfather, the center transcends the line of politics and religion. It is meant to bridge all Israelis together towards a common goal, creating a stable and safe future for the state of Israel. Yitzhak Rabin had an affinity for America. He loved this country so much that after his success during the Six-Day War, he was presented with an offer to choose the post of your desire. My grandfather didn't blink an eye, as you just heard in the movie, and he said he wanted to be the ambassador to the United States. It is important to the Rabin Center to be a part of the American Jewish community, just as it was important to my grandfather to come here and to create a long-term relationship with the community here. We want you to see the center as a place that our mutually beneficial goals can be realized. My hope is that we can create a true dialogue in which we can explore together and find solutions together. The issue Yitzhak Rabin raised 20 years ago are not unlike those you struggle with in your homes, communities, synagogues, and organizations. Let us explore them together, and let us continue to work together to build up the great nation of Israel so we can securely say, we are the great state of Israel, and we will be eternal home of the Jewish people. Thank you all for coming tonight. Thank you for remembering. Thank you for loving. The desire of a peace between us and ourselves and between us and our neighbors are the core values and most human values. Are the core values and the most human and universal elements, the most universal and most Jewish at the same time. Thank you so much and good evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Rothman, for what you shared with us. I now invite Mrs. Imbal Segev and Dina Puzanski to perform Agnus Dei by Bach. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Segev, and of course, Ms. Prozansky. And now, before we conclude, I would like to extend a warm thank you to Temple Emanu-El for hosting us tonight, and Erica Resnick for helping carry out this event. And, of course, the much maligned NYPD for their assistance. I want to thank the Consulate General of Israel in New York for producing tonight's event, as well as the Rabin Center for participating in this memorial. And finally, I want to thank all of the speakers and performers that volunteered to participate, who made tonight a powerful and unforgettable evening. And now I ask Mr. Halabi to join us again for the singing of Hatikvah. And I kindly ask everyone to stand for Hatikvah. That will conclude our ceremony. And thank you and shalom, my friends.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the JBS homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to GEM, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.